What on earth is going on in the House of Commons? What on earth is going on with BookTok? I'm going to improv this one. I've got no script. I've just got a bunch of screenshots that Rachel Wade sent me because she is the only person getting me to work at the moment. Otherwise, I'd be content just lying around in face masks all day. What on earth is going on with BookTok? So we're going to kind of cover a little bit of controversy that has gone on with, there's an author called Tori Woods, and then there's another one, I can't remember her name, I should Google it. Right, KKK romance, a historical romance, no, that's not quite it. Tilly Cole, Tori Woods and Tilly Cole. What on earth is going on? Right, okay, so to give the too long didn't watch, Tori Woods is the pseudonym of someone who has been arrested for writing a dark romance. I contest the romance part. I think this when I read Penelope Douglas or does Coho qualify? Because I know that Coho maybe doesn't think of herself as a dark romance author. I think she just thinks she's a romance author. But I just don't think a lot of these are very romantic, actually. I think it's dark erotica. But they don't want to go... These people don't want this is my conspiracy theory, the term of erotica associated with their works, because if they have to put it in the erotica section on Amazon, they'll probably sell less. I don't know. As a Amazon author myself, I do a lot of research on best... That's how I do research. Best... This is why I... script everything. Best genres to put what in, best keywords and taglines for the metadata, that kind of stuff when you're filling out, when you're putting up books on Amazon, right? And there are KDP boards discussing these methods. And I've seen a lot of people say that erotica on Amazon was so big 5-10 years ago. But now chances are, if your book falls under erotica, they don't promote it or something like that. I don't know how true that is. I've just seen people contesting it. So maybe that's why these people call themselves dark romance authors, because I don't think they are very romantic. I think dark erotica would. And even then. So one author, Tori Woods, basically, I think she read Lolita and thought... this is the most romantic thing I've ever read in my life, and then wanted her own go at it. And then there's one called Tilly Cole, who wrote an enemies to lovers romance about the heir to I didn't know they had heirs. The heir to the KKK and the heir to a Mexican drug cartel falling in love. If you want me to review that, because that's been taken off of... We found a copy. So if you want me to review it, I'm going to anyway. So that's the too long didn't read. These people have done this. But Tori Woods has been arrested for this. So let's just recap that quickly, yeah? So, found this article. The Conversation. After writing selling a dark romance novel, a self-published author from Quakers Hill will appear before a Sydney magistrate, Australian, on Monday, charged with producing, possessing and disseminating child sexual abuse material. The Daily Telegraph reported police had received multiple complaints. Before New South Wales police arrived at her doorstep, the author, revealed on BookTok as Laura Tesolin-Mastrosa, posted a dismayed apology on her Instagram account, now taken down but reproduced by news.com. It was a huge misunderstanding, she wrote. Daddy's Little Toy, the book title, is fictional. I can already hear some people being like, oh no, but isn't this censorship? We'll get to it, but Australia has very strict laws. And I think she effed around and found out, right? And the thing is, because I've seen I've seen some people, and I think it's questionable, to be honest. Obviously, we can have concerns about censorship. I'm not saying that, but I feel like am I looking at this in bad faith? Some of the viewpoints of some people, it's a bit like, why are you defending this so much though, bro? Do we need to look at your hard drives? Is there something you're not telling us? I think a lot of people are going on about free speech, but this lady's Australian. She lives in Australia. There are different laws. The American free speech and right to liberty and all of that constitutional stuff applies to America. It doesn't apply to other places. And she's effed around and found out. Let's just go through this article more fully. So Tesolin-Mastrosa thought she had written a dark romance novel. The book's listing described it as a loose retelling of Cinderella. Oh, this is pathetic. This is actually so sad. When did this come out? Fuck me. All of these people are so transparent. They should be windows. I wrote it as a retelling of Cinderella. Do you know why this person's done? Do you know what? I'm finding this part more distasteful than the actual. Do you know why she's done that? Because the first ACOTAR is a loose retelling of Beauty and the Beast. That's so annoying. You people, you just all copy each other. Here's me. I'm writing. Enough about this stuff and these weirdos, right? Do you know what gets my goat? It's not an expression. The most. That KKK novel, yeah, Darkness Embraced, has such a high rating on Goodreads. And here I am with my little Prime Minister's Porky Mistress and no one cares. That's what gets my goat so much. So these people are so successful. Anyway, speaking about loose retellings, yeah, enough about her, more about me. I'm writing a loose retelling of The Odyssey, starring, well, I call him Barnaby Jones, and if you read the Prime Minister's Porky Mistress, you will clearly be able to tell who Barnaby Jones is a parody of. So anyway, I am better than these weirdo authors. You should buy my stuff from Amazon instead. No, but let's continue. That's annoyed me a little bit. A loose retelling of Cinderella, indeed. Oh, you people just copy each other. Ugh, where's the originality? Anyway, but her readers, skilled in decoding the conventions of the genre, disagree. For them, her spicy sexual romance between a very young woman just turned 18 and a friend of her father's who had noticed her since she was only 3. Reminds me of that. Oh God. If you've all come from watching Rachel's video where she's trying to handle it very sensitively and then here's me being like, do you know what? It reminds me of that. What's that guy? Stephen Tries doing his sketch about Jimmy Savile. Being like, oh yeah, I met a girl. She was really sophisticated and mature. She just got out of nappies. He said something like that.
She was a proper classy bird, potty trained and everything.
Look, I'm English. I'm kind of used to just people being nonsense. It sounds like I'm being flippant. Kind of am. I know, people are just aghast right now and just like, oh, what are you doing? I don't know what I'm saying. Right, a lot of our kids' TV presenters, Savile, Rolf Harris, whatever, turn out to be this way inclined. So that's a bit desensitizing. Edward Heath. He's dead, so it's fine. He was that way inclined too. Lord Mountbatten, I think, that way inclined too. God, let's not even get started on allegedly Andrew, the prince. That is not the other famous one. And you know what's bad? I was on this website the other day that was it was like a public service website on finding predators in your area, basically, as a PSA type of thing. And someone that I went to school with became later on, yes. So I was just, looking up I wonder if they're out of jail or whatever. And they're on this, it came up on this website, they were a predator. And I was like, okay. And then it was there are, I think there was 8 or 10 others, from my hometown. I don't live there anymore. 8 or 10 others. I was like, So I was looking through them and then I recognized a name on there and I clicked on it and I was like, oh my God, yeah, I know that person too. Nothing happened, but they used to come to my house when I was younger. So if it seems like I'm being flippant, I don't know, I'm just a bit desensitized. Nothing really shocks me. Shall we continue before people start yelling at me? So notice her since she was only 3 amounts to representation of grooming and paedophilia and is not acceptable. In her apology, Tesolin-Mastrosa wrote that the character's sexual relationship did not begin until both characters had reached the age of consent. Yeah, but notice her since she was 3. Things exploded on BookTok and Instagram, where videos promoting the book had attracted hundreds of thousands of views around the world, and no one cares about my little book. Daddy's Little Toy, published under the pseudonym Torywood, spells its title out in a child's alphabet blocks on the cover. Why does each sentence get worse and worse? Should I have given a trigger warning for this video? You clicked on it, you know what it's about. The back blurb voices the desires of the 2 protagonists. Angry BookTokers, especially dark romance fans of age-gapped erotica, almost all women, reacted quickly. They argued the book should be removed from sale. It has been, and the writer should be jailed with her children protected on her. Those who read it should be jailed too, some declared. But can a novel be classified as child sexual abuse material? Both New South Wales and Commonwealth laws are clear. The definition of child abuse material under the Crimes Act is not restricted to material produced with an actual child, but may include CAM, child abuse material comprised of drawings, discussions, and computer-generated images. Citing the precedent of a 2010 case, the Judicial Commission of NSW notes that whether CAM constituted by drawings or discussions is the product of fantasies or a retelling of actual events is irrelevant. In Australia's expansive history of book bans and literary prosecutions, the depictions of juvenile sexuality has long exercised the censors. There has been virtually unanimous community support for protecting children from exploitation and not validating adult eroticization of Children. Fiction books have always been a target for the policing of indecency and obscurity. Now, in our image-saturated digital society, the novel may seem like a niche cultural product that sits outside the general circulation of sexual content, but it's not immune to policing. Then they go on about Lolita, but there is a huge difference between Lolita and whatever this is. The novel does not endorse his desires, though we witness them as readers. Nabokov's skill is in accomplishing this balance between Humbert's manifest obsession, written in first person, our realization as we read that his point of view is deeply, darkly unreliable and corrupt. Romance's contract with the reader. More than this, the book genre mitigates against such a defense. Erotic appeal, a friction of sexualized, often taboo desire, is an implicit promise of the contract between reader and author in a dark romance novel. Confiscated hardback copies of the novel will be forensically examined. The police report notes it'll be interesting to see how the reading of it may play out in a courtroom or not with an author who has clearly stated her remorse. So I'm getting quite a sympathetic angle from this website, and I just have to say, and I have to think, I simply have to. Would this article be so sympathetic if it wasn't a story of grooming, noncery and paedophilia in book format, but instead if it was a video game? Both are fiction, right? Both don't exist. And yet... And even in a lot of dark romances, again, not romances, but rape gets romanticized. God, there's even a Colleen Hoover novel, maybe now, maybe not, one of the maybe series. There's even a Colleen Hoover novel where Warren rapes Bridget, basically, but, she enjoys it, so it's fine, I guess. The defense for this stuff is usually, oh, but it's fiction and we can tell the difference and blah, blah, blah. And yet I feel like if there was a video game where and there probably is out there right now, someone's probably made one, but if there was a video game where you play a character who goes around either grooming or assaulting people sexually, I feel like people would lose their minds over it, and the uproar would be huge, and it would be more proof on how video games are promoting violence in men or whatnot, I find it peculiar. I do find it interesting how there's always so much uproar around video games and yet not about books. And Rachel has made this point too, that okay, well, if you can separate fact from fiction and reality from fiction, why is it that grown adults being abused is sexy and fine, but kids being abused in book format wouldn't be? But I'm not sitting here saying either all of it's okay or none of it's okay, because that's what iDub said about using slurs in videos, if you're old enough to remember. Remember when he said that one? Jesus. Morally grey or morally questionable characters are fine as long as the meta-narrative understands that they are bad people and they aren't just supported. Like, if you have a character who is a rapist and it's their intent to be one because they're in the head or whatever, or they're just, messed up, fine. But if your main character is a rapist and it's never recognized as that, and in fact they're the hero, and Warren, well, he knew what Bridget needed and he knew her body better than she did, so he was allowed to pin her down and orally assault her even though she told him to stop or she wasn't comfortable. Or Christian Grey, when he used to do that stuff to Anna. I feel like that's where the issues are, right? In terms of BDSM, domination still needs to be consensual. You can have consensual non-consent, because that's fine, because that implies there's been it shouldn't imply, there should definitely be a discussion beforehand. That's fine. Maybe just don't write weird stories about people being I do find it funny when people jump on but we shouldn't be censoring books though, because is this even a book, or is this someone's odd fantasy that they've written out and then uploaded on Amazon? That's not the same as Fahrenheit 451 burning books, is it? It's not quite the same. It's not the police burning every copy of Brave New World and 1984 so we don't realise that we live in a dystopia. It's not quite the same, is it? I'm not going to hold the same energy for it, because I just don't care enough. I think you're a weird person if you're writing a story about a child being groomed and it's a good thing. I think you're weird. I'm not going to be defending you in court, mate. Okay, so let's go through some of these screenshots that lovely Rachel sent me. Tory Woods, author. Hi everyone, I think there's been a huge misunderstanding. DLT is definitely not promoting or inciting anything ever to do with CSA or paedophilia. What's being said is grossly disturbing and breaks my heart as well as makes me sick. DLT is fictional and meant to represent the DD/LG world. I understand where I went wrong, and that's... Right, okay. But when people do that kind of, that specific type of subdom dynamic, right? I would hope people aren't doing it with people that they've known since the age of 3, one of them being an adult, the other one being 3 years old, and then, waiting till the younger one turned 18. Grooming, I would hope they're not actually grooming. Because you could have, if you truly wanted it to represent that specific type of thing, you could have probably had them be just 2 consenting adults that had met randomly at a bar and didn't have history and, didn't have one of them fantasizing over the child as they grew up or whatever. I understand where I went wrong, and that is why I've removed it from Amazon this morning. What happened between these characters, yes, started at a young age. No, I can't believe they were intercourse like that. How embarrassing for you. No intercourse happened while she was young. Yes, there were thoughts, and I can see how that is frowned upon. Are you dumb? I can't believe. I'll say it here. There are people giving others backlash on this topic right now, defending the author. This is who you're defending. What a dumbass. Yes, there were thoughts. I can see how that is frowned upon. You think noncy thoughts are a little bit frowned upon? And nothing happened like that until she was of age. Oh, I suppose it's fine then that the grown adult was fantasizing about a 3-year-old. I know nothing that I say is going to change or fix what I've written. There are, however, innocent people who have been caught in the crossfire, and it needs to stop. You're not in a position to be able to tell people what needs to stop. These people, along with their businesses, the cover designer, the graphics, and the editor. I mean, do you know what? The editor probably should have had a word and said something. Probably. These ladies are under no impression that I was Laura Ashley. Why does that matter? Apparently she'd plagiarized something before, whatever. They were under no impression that I was writing as Tory. Georgia was my PA for Lauren Ashley and had only ever read half of my very first book and decided it wasn't for her. This is why she became my PA, because she was honest. If she was really honest, she would have told you to pack it in. G has raised concerns with me about people mentioning her arc form. This isn't interesting. This person read a couple of my books, not someone in particular. Neither of them knew to the full extent what was in this book. Ashley edited the book. She had asked me some questions. In my replies, I wasn't entirely truthful. She did not read over my final manuscript, which became the published, now unpublished version. I'm so sorry I wasn't who I said I was. I'm so sorry for the content of my book. And I'm even more sorry that this was missed as a trigger warning. I'll be removing myself from the book community. If I ever get back to writing, I will not hide who it is, and I'll make sure the people I work with know the full content of my books. However, I don't see that happening. I'm so sorry. Okay, whatever. She also writes under the name L.R. Meadows. It just seems like she creates a new pen name when she burns one. Her real name is Lauren, 33, married to a man 13 years older than her, been together for 15 years. I mean, if I'm being gracious, maybe she was writing through some stuff, but that doesn't mean she had to hit upload and publish it for the world. You want to get your thoughts out? Fine. You don't need to then, I don't know, make other people suffer. Not only that, he mentions in the sample, which I skimmed because screw it, I'm not downloading that his daddy friends have known about my depraved thoughts for a couple of years now, keeping me on the straight and narrow while I waited for her to become of legal age. It's not like this is a sly thing the author did. It's right there. Jesus, she said the quiet part out loud. Since Daddy's Little Toy by Tory Woods is circulating, thought I should share another horrible book that sadly has high reviews. Why is no one reading my books? All the Ugly and Wonderful Things by Bryn Greenwood is also just blatant paedophilia. I read it in my senior year in my Gothic literature class. The synopsis made it seem like the main focus was about a young girl navigating her life after meth-dealing parents were murdered. Little did I know it's actually a love story about this child and a family friend. The girl meets this family friend when she is 8 years old. He's around 21 at the time. As the story progresses, it seems like this man makes a great father figure, as her parents are awful, but by the time she's 13, they become intimate, and it was borderline smut reading it. The worst thing, he gets caught fooling around with her by the girl's aunt and gets arrested, but he gets released. They get married, and the aunt, the only sane one, ends up apologizing to him for getting him arrested. Was this on a school reading list? It was a senior level class. We picked the books out provided by the public library, not the school. Nonetheless, I won't blame the schools again. The synopsis is very deceptive. Someone wrote an email to her employer and wanted to share it in case anyone else had any ideas for wording. To whom may concern, serious matter, Tory Woods. Paedophile who becomes attracted to a child at age 3 and grooms her until she reaches legal age. Lauren has attempted to pass this off as a kink, but that is a gross misrepresentation of the content. Due to public backlash, the book has been removed from Amazon. She has deleted related posts on her Instagram. However, instead of acknowledging the gravity of the issue, she has since released a statement dismissing concerns as a misunderstanding. Additionally, she admitted to deceiving her editor about the book's contents and refused to let anyone review it before it publishing. Clear indications she knew the material was inappropriate but chose to release it anyway. As a Christian organisation, I trust that Baptist Care takes matters like this seriously. Damn, she works for a Christian organisation. Maybe they'll buy the book. I'm joking. I really hate that the discussion about Tory Woods and her pedo book has turned into a conversation criticising dark romance books generally. That book is not dark romance. Paedophilia and grooming is not a kink and is not taboo. The book is not a gateway to criticise all other dark romance books that have nothing to do with this. Leave them out of this. Why do so many dark romance books, though, just like include the main character, the male main character just like beating up women, though? So, wait. So we draw the line. Well, some of you aren't drawing the line at paedophilia, but you'll draw the line at the KKK one, but not draw the line at women just getting beaten the shit out of. It's weird, innit? It's just strange. I saw someone say, dark romance to me would be, you know, this bloke is really in love with me, but he's dangerous, but he's not dangerous to me, but he would like, you know, he would kill like a bunch of people to make sure that I was safe. I'd be fine with reading that. I deserve that level of commitment from, I'm going to ask my boyfriend, would you? But why instead are dark romance books always about, well, not always about, but the ones that I've read, they're just all about humiliating women or abusing them or bullying them into literally bullying her into being in a relationship with him. Coho, I don't know if she's dark romance, but God knows what's going on there. There's the Zodiac Academy ones where they just bully the girls and like pee on them as wolves or whatever. I edited that video for Rachel. I got a whole list of like these so-called dark. Right, there was also a dark romance, a BookTok one. I think it was about a girl and her professor at some sort of like gothic school. Can't remember what it was called. So you're saying that, oh no, dark romance is fine, but why are so many of them just odd? So here we've got the front cover, Daddy's Little Toy, and here I made an off-the-cuff comment about wanting a woman as sweet as my friend's toddler daughter, Lucy, who was 3 at the time. I mentioned her infectious energy and how I just wanted to make a woman laugh, smile, and feel special and precious. Someone who I could just look at and all of my life stresses would melt away. My son didn't need another mum. He was a well-adjusted young man, but I needed someone that was just for me, someone who needed me as much as I needed them. Get a dog. Actually, don't, because you'll probably just bum it. You know what I'm going to say. I'm not even going to go there. Some more Tory Woods. Not Jarl acting like Lolita is the same as Daddy's Little Toy. Tory Woods clearly presented this book as smut, romance that began with a 3-year-old descriptive language of a child sexually, and it was written for pleasure as a kink. Nabokov makes it clear that his MMC is a predator, unreliable narrator, and the entire novel fights against the MMC's delusions and manipulations. Nabokov ensures we see his MMC as a monster. This is definitely a systemic issue, but pick a real comparison. Lolita is about how abusers justify their delusions, manipulations, and abuses of power. The author is confronting society's failures, particularly American commodification of youth and everyone's ability to overlook abuse and let predators get away with how they operate. It spells out the devastating impact of abuse on its victims. It's about how victims don't often get justice. The MMC awaits trial for a murder and never convicted of his crimes against Lolita. Spoilers, she dies in obscurity without justice. What Tory Woods did is spitting on everything Nabokov did. She wrote for pleasure and kink, but PDF behaviour is not a kink. She degraded DDLG, which I'm not giving a personal opinion on, but is a consensual kink between informed, consenting adults, into something that the community doesn't actually represent, claim, or accept. She perverted a 3-year-old child for pleasure for an MMC who was backed up by other men, helping him resist his urges till she was legal, and that's called accessory. All I'm saying is that there are a lot of books out there filled with wildly horrible content and questionable kinks. I won't kink shame. I do think some kinks should be shamed, like the foot people. But I do kink wonder why, and actual shameful behaviour. But to say Lolita is just as bad as Daddy's Little Toy. You are missing the whole point. Of course they are, because they probably can't fucking read it. If they're reading shits like that, I'm sick of it. They're not reading high literature. They're not reading The Prime Minister's Porky Mistress. They're not reading The Long Arduous Journey of Barnaby Jones when that comes out later on this year by yours truly. They're not reading high literature, are they? They're reading shit slop. That's probably the most offensive part to me. This stuff is all, I don't even need to read it. I know it's going to be poorly written. I just know it's going to be shit already. So I've read enough of this crap. That's the worst part for me. So of course they missed the point of Lolita. They've not read it. And even if they did read it, it's above their reading age because it's not for 10-year-olds. Wow. I'm tired, okay, and I'm hormonal and I'm not in the mood for this. You're missing the whole point of criticism Nabokov presents of society, abuse, and the reality for victims. So, the book details. It's only 200 pages long. Book overview. Daddy's Little Toy is a loose retelling of Cinderella where Lucy's family are neglectful and cruel. As Lucy grows up, she finds herself attracted to her father's best friend. Wow. Little does she know that Arthur feels the same way. Together, they explore a daddy and little girl relationship, falling hard and fast for each other. Daddy loves spoiling his little toy and treating her like the princess she is. Happily ever after guaranteed with extra sparkles and unicorns. You freak. You weirdo. So apparently she dedicated the books to her children as well. That's what someone on YouTube said. She dedicated the books to her children. I feel like I should be more outraged by this, but honestly, I'm just cynical. Maybe I'd have been outraged like this, but like 2 years ago. But do you know what? I can't be surprised by anything any of these people do. Top reviews from the United States. Pedophilia. Literally, if I could give this book 0, I would. Who would write something like this? This is disgusting. The baby was 3 years old when you noticed her. My daughter is 3 and I'd literally go to jail over my kid. This was a quick did not finish. The author should be ashamed of themselves. I have little limits of subjects I won't read, and this is the top reason I won't read a book. The fact that the daddy started noticing the little girl at the age of 3 is disgusting and should never have even been a thought process here. This is vile. 4 out of 5. Enjoyed this book. Love the 2 main characters. Only reason for the 5 and not a full star is because I wish it wasn't such a slow burn. Okay. Bit weird. More 1-star reviews. Oh my god. Oh, okay. This I'm going to have to heavily redact this. I mean, if you read the screen, you'll be able to see it. I'll leave it up uncensored. Though viewer discretion is advised. This is pretty graphic. So someone did a review and quoted, "I made the mistake of peeking between her legs only to find dark curls hiding what I'm sure was and still is the most perfect, untouched, pretty little pink. And while I'm impartial to a little hair, I generally prefer my baby girl's bare. It makes the little feel more authentic. Little girls don't have hairs on their private." Do you know what? They should show, not me about make a joke. They should show this to those chumps on the Reality Check podcast, the video that I did recently, where they'll be like, "What do you mean?" They show this to them. The reviewer says, "I can't remember how old she was here, but she was still a child. So yeah, no, this is pedophilia. They have a 29-year-old age gap. It's okay if he didn't want her since she was 3. This book promotes pedophilia and the abuse of young children. The MMC admits throughout the book when he first noticed the FMC when she was 3 years old, then proceeds to make her portray a 3-year-old throughout the book while performing explicit sexual acts. Pure disgust. Tory Woods, I wish your hands would fall off so you could never write a book again. How can you write something so wrong and disgusting? Do you have any sense of morality or a bit of decency?" 3 out of 5. I'm glad I read the trigger warnings beforehand. This book explores the daddy-little's relationship in great detail. I rated it 3-star only because some parts were a little weird and uncomfortable for me. The plot of the story was well written, and I did enjoy the spicy scenes. That reviewers put it up with their public face and everything. Crazy work. So here's more stuff that was from the Instagram quotes from Tori. "Lucy, I can't help myself when I'm around him. I wet my pants in excitement. At night, I use my unicorn's stuffy horn." Read it yourself. "All I think about while I'm being naughty is my dad's best friend and how I wish he could be my daddy. I'm the freak of the family. My dad is disappointed in me. My mum dismisses me. And my sister despises me. I'm delusional if I think Arthur would ever want to play with me." Arthur. My juicy Lucy. She's finally hated. I'm so done. How is this my life? Why have I reduced myself to reading this horrible stuff for you? I just know right now there's going to be at least one person I won't check the comments. So it's fine. There's going to be at least one person moving the goalpost being like, how can you undermine this by laughing at it? You're the problem. I'm not the one who wrote the thing. My Juicy Lucy, she's finally 18. I've wanted her longer than I can ever legally admit. She doesn't know it yet, but she's going to be my perfect little toy. When I see her playing dress-ups, I forget about the fact she's my best friend's barely legal daughter, or that her mum hasn't protected and cherished her like she should. All right, Father of the Year. So there's that. Now let's move on to briefly recapping. This was meant to be a shorter video, but here I am just yapping too much. Tilly Cole and Darkness Embrace, the Enemies to Lovers KKK novel. Oh dear, oh dear. Someone said on Reddit, I recommend that anyone interested in hearing women of colour discuss why this book is so vehemently criticised, check out the Goodreads reviews by American and Latina women. Many of the reviews provide great analysis of exactly why Cole's choice to have a Mexican woman as a redemption arc for a white supremacist character, which, do you know what? I know it's the point of the book, but let's put the race stuff and the racist stuff in a box for a second here. Women don't exist to fix men. Full stop. Now let's, take the racism out of the box. A Mexican woman as a redemption arc for a white supremacist character is wrong, not to mention the issues with colorism, European ancestry, and the stereotyping of Hispanic women in her novel. Even if she hadn't written this book, her Hades Hangman series has the most blatant case of white fetishism I've seen in a series or romance series. Endless repeated descriptions of beautiful, pale, creamy, white, almost transparent, feminine pale, did I mention creamy, white skin. Blue eyes, all beautiful, perfect doll-like blue eyes for 6 books. All of the main female characters are white and pale with Western European features. Their beauty and soft femininity intrinsically linked with their whiteness. The only woman of colour in the series is a Samoan woman, and she is described as unfeminine, muscular, physically powerful, and crude. You could describe me that way. Cole's attempt to address race issues in her MFM book are ham-fisted and inane at best. The endless descriptions of the contrast between the MFC's creamy white skin and the MMC's dark skin are a choice. The resolution to the racial issues and trauma due to racialized violence in the book is the love and acceptance of white women. Yikes. Cole is a white British woman writing about the American institutional racism and state violence, a topic that she clearly has no experience with and has done zero research on. They say, write what you know. This isn't about dark romance, it's about the audacity and confidence of a poorly informed writer to think they can tackle any topic just because it's romance fiction. I guess my question is, why would you want to read a romance where the hero is part of the KKK? There is a major difference between reading a book where the guy is a stalker or rapist or kidnapper and a guy who has connections to the real-world white supremacist group KKK. Did you have to put rapist in there? Is this what this has been reduced down to? Me thinking, if you have to pick one of the 3, stalker, rapist, kidnapper, or white supremacist KKK group member, I guess out of all of them, if I had to pick one, I guess I'd be okay with them being a stalker a la Edward Cullen and just sitting outside my window and watching me sleep to make sure no one hurts me. Is this what this is boiled down to? Realising that actually, in this sea of nonsense, Edward Cullen really was the gentleman of it all. I've had enough. So this person wrote that comment 8 months ago. My guy, I would rather not read a romance where the main character is a rapist and suddenly that's absolved by the end. Are these people high? Wasn't there... I'm tired, so I'm not going to research it, but wasn't there also some sort of like enemies to lovers romance between a Jewish person and a Nazi? I mean, the crazy thing about writing is you can just sit there and write anything you want. So why don't we maybe just not write this kind of stuff and write about aliens instead? Now I've got some quotes from the KKK book. Stay away from me, I warned. Our foreheads were practically touching. I needed to get her to get the message that having her beside me every day was no longer going to work. I wanted her gone. Her brown eyes and long hair and long lashes out of my life. You'll stop speaking to me. You'll leave the room if I'm in it, and you won't even look my way. I'm the White Prince of the Ku Klux Klan, the institution that's gonna save America from the freeloaders and the impurists. And see, See, it's also just like not very well written, is it? I grabbed her shoulders and wrenched her to me. She weighed nothing and my hold was too strong. Her chest crashed into mine. Her hands struck my face again and again until I threw her to the lounger and pinned her down by her two slim wrists. I sat between her legs and leaned down until I was all she could see. You whore, you touched me. You don't get to do that. You're impure. God. Oh, God. I realised my mouth was hovering just above Adelita's. Her skin was flushed and her boobs were pressed right against my bare chest. Big Mexican boobs pushing against my solid black swastika tattoo. Do you reckon, I'm going to say it, do you reckon people could get away with this more if someone wrote a satire? Not saying I'm going to, because I don't need the heat. But if someone wrote it as parody, do you think they could get away with it more? Probably a little bit. I mean, if you look at the parody Hitler in Jojo Rabbit, you look like a whore. I jumped to my feet and stormed across the poolside until I was in the guest suites. I slammed the door shut and practically ran to the shower. I squeezed my eyes shut as I let the water wash away the coconut from my skin, the mint and rose scent, wash Adelita's touch, her impure touch off my body, and her taste from my mouth. The mint and sweetness and the feel of her whorish tongue sliding next to mine. But it didn't help. That woman was all up in my head. A witch, that's what she was. Nothing but a witch. Refusing to fight back had done something to that hate. It dulled it somehow, started twisting it into something that felt like sympathy. Sympathy for the Nazi prince. But it clearly had done nothing to dilute Tanner's hatred for me. From the minute I'd seen him this morning, more contempt than usual seemed to radiate off him towards me. Tanner hissed as I pressed harder. You're covered in the blood of my enemies. I smiled. It suits you, white prince. Tell me. I rang my fingertip up over his arm slowly, gently, tenderly, until it reached the blood-covered pulse that was beating wildly in his neck. How many times has it been Mexican blood on this skin? I tipped my head to the side, watching the anger rise to redden his skin. Blood like mine, of my people. Yeah, because he's like murdered. Like a bunch of Mexican people too. Tanner lurched forward, catching me off guard. My words and breath were cut off as he launched from the chair, hand around my neck and drove me back into the nearest wall. My back hit the concrete, but all I could see was Tanner. See the dark tattoos of hate glaring at me, offending me. Then his face was in mine. If you want me to cover it, more extensively, I mean, I'll do it. Why not? But anyway, I'm tired. What on earth is going on with dark romance? Is it perhaps the issue is with the intent and the execution? The intent of Lolita was not to glamorize a nonce. It was to show how Humbert was delusional and bad for being a nonce. And the execution of the novel also presented that. I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you think of all of this? What do you think? Do you know what? Maybe don't comment anything because I don't want, people's comments being deleted by YouTube's censor or whatever. I was going to say, what do you think the next thing will be? Because clearly people are also going for shock value as well, right? And then getting a little bit more than they bargained for. What do you think the next crazily inappropriate thing someone's going to write? Could the KKK one be gotten away with if it was written under satire and it was funny? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I make new videos whenever I feel like it. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok, all of those things, Goodreads, whatever. And I'll see you all next time. Bye.